Okay, Gabriel, we're recording there, so whenever you're ready.
Good morning, guys. My name is Gabriel Faherty. I am the owner of Aran Islands Goat's Cheese. We're a family-run goat farm in Nishmore, and we make both hard and soft goat's cheeses. And this last year there and into this year, I decided to bring a more twist onto it. There's other food products on the island. There's a seaweed, or my in-laws, Jenny and Dave, have hand harvested the seaweed on the island, and also built a little tasting area in there close to their processing area. And my mother-in-law has a cafe restaurant on the island, which won a Georgina Campbell Award for the best cafe in Ireland in 2016. So what we did was to incorporate all of the three and all that's best of the food on the islands, and bring them all together in a little package so they can have a full day trip. A half day trip would only take in Dún Aengus historical twist to it as well. You get to see the Dún Aengus. I myself will be one of the tour guides. I would drive the tour bus, and any questions and answers that you want to ask about the island or the history of the island or anything to do with the cheese making, I'd be able to answer. And then Jenny and Dave would take care of their corner with the seaweed end of it, which was accumulating a stop for Dún Aengus to see the fort, also called the Seven Churches, which is a picture of it there in the slide there. First stop would be at the goat farm, and get to go in and meet the goats, get your goat pics or selfies with the baby goats, and into the front then, and we give you different tastes of the different cheeses. Our soft cheese won Caution Award in 2019. We got a silver for our soft cheese, and we got a bronze for our hard cheese. So in 2019, I also got Best Local Food Hero for the Restaurant Association of Ireland, and we got a Tala Award. We got runner-up in the Tala Awards in the RDS in the spring show for the second most sustainable farm in Ireland. So 2019 was a very, very good year. 2020, I'm afraid, didn't bring things as good, but the goats don't know the pandemic is on, and they're producing away at the moment, so they are. So we're plenty of cheese. So we have more so the hard cheeses this year. So we did, because it lasts longer and you don't have to get it out the door as quick. So we move from there then up to Dún Aengus, where they get a chance to walk up to see the fort. Dún Aengus, 3,500-year-old fort, and also give time. Takes about an hour return to walk up and down to the fort to Dún Aengus. It's Dún Aengus there in the slide there on the left. You get plenty of time to go up to see the fort. Also lunch at the base. The cafe is at the base of Dún Aengus, so it's a quaint little cottage and all home cooked food. They would supply a lot of the local producers. Jenny and Dave supplied the seaweed pesto to them. We supplied the goat's cheese. And there's another family in the island, Bertie and Niamh, who have a local crab fishing. I spent the winter fishing with Bertie actually a couple of days a week. So I did. I spent 20 years as a deep sea fisherman as well. So it let me get back to my roots a little bit for the winter. The pandemic had a lot to answer for, so it had. But the crab is also one of the main things on the menu in the restaurant. So beside it then is the little beach there, the Kylemore beach. It's ranked as one of the top 10 along the Wild Atlantic Way, and you can get a chance to walk down along the shoreline there and take a couple of photos. And if you can bring your swimsuit and we have time, you'll be able to have time. The weather's right, you'll be able to have a dip. So we go on west to the Seven Churches, and Jenny and Dave's place is right back by the Seven Churches. And we stop off there and call into their tasting area and get to taste all the products. They have a couple of new products actually. They have a smoked mackerel pate online this year and a new aioli. So they have so we'll go from there down to the Seven Churches and to the west end of the island to see the lighthouse at the end. For the whole day, that's for the full day tour, you would be more or less collect you from the ferry and drive you around and show you all the areas and tell you all about it, and drop you to all the spots and wait, and then drop you down to the ferry or to the village down in Kilrona for some shopping time before you'd head back on the ferry in the afternoon. So it's a full day thing. The half day would be more just the goats and Dunangus and the 7 churches. You wouldn't get Jenny and Dave, and there'd be time for lunch in that one as well. That's basically what our tour would really consist of. So just wondering, have anybody got any questions?
Thanks, Gabriel. If anyone want to unmute themselves there and ask Gabriel a question, or pop it in the chat box. Just a question from Armando here. How many people can you take at any given time, Gabriel, on your tour?
Well, we have two coaches. We have a 16 and a 26 seater. So we have, not 28 seater. So it's 28, 16 and 28. So she is, so we could carry like that. If there was a bigger group, I can get one of the other minibuses to come with us as well. One of the guides that I would use. There's a guide there that I use for, I do a lot of the Abbey groups when they come in, and we deal for up 52, so we can carry a coach, so we can. So deal. The smaller groups, probably they're easier to handle, especially the way with social distancing and all that has gone now with the pandemic. So we were dealing more last summer now where there were smaller groups. A lot of them were kind of family groups and stuff like that. Say from 6 up to a coach, yeah, pretty much.
Good number. And you pick them up from the ferry as well, Gabriel, then?
Yeah, we would collect them from the ferries. We'd be there at the top of the pier when they come in, and like the guides, that I would be one of the drivers anyways, and my cousin is one of the other drivers. So all the drivers know that they do the tour all the time. So, but at any of the stops that we'd be stopping at, we'd be going together, and I would do the talking at our end of it, and Benny and Dave would cover their side of it then.
Just Karen here wants to know, would the cafe be able to accommodate that many people also?
The cafe can, well, there is the other option as well for a bigger group. If you wanted to put the picnic option together for them, they could have it themselves up at the fort. That was one of the things with the social distancing and getting numbers in and out of. They would be a very, very busy cafe. They have a lot of outside seating and stuff like that. So they have about seating for about 50 inside, or a little over 50. And because it's my mother-in-law's cafe, you can gauge your stop for a time that'll be quiet, you know, when the big crowd isn't there. So you could have your lunch stop at that time. And like that, if they wanted to have the picnic option, that they could have it up at Dunangus to bring with them or something like that, you would have that option as well, you know.
Okay, and the cafe will do up the picnic for you?
Yeah, it will be there ready for collection when they will be going up to the fort.
Okay, great. Leah really likes the picnic option. Yeah, it's something different, isn't it?
It is something different, and I had a couple of groups there last year now, and we put it together for them, and they were able to do their own thing, and you give them extra time. You know, when you are running the tour yourself, you can give them the extra time. You know, it's not made in stone. If you've got a younger group, maybe they like to spend more time walking and up at the fort. Sometimes if you have an older type group, they're able to, you give them more time for shopping and stuff like that, you know, and some of them mightn't want to go up, but there is ice cream place down at the bottom. The Man of Aran Fudge is right down at the base of Dunangus, and there are craft shops there as well. So there's, you know, there's, for those that didn't want to walk up to the fort, there's the option for the two, you know.
Or they could have it by that beach you showed us there and go for a swim if they're feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
They're feeling energetic. And you're from the Aran Islands yourself, Gabriel, did you?
Yeah, born and bred on the island. Yeah, my dad's from Aran and my mom's from Mayo, but she was a teacher there for 30 years, so she was. So.
Wow, so you have an extensive knowledge of everyone and everything to do with the Aran Islands.
Yeah, well, everybody knows everybody out there. And everybody's more interested in what you're doing than what they're doing themselves a lot of the time. So it's the same story in every small town, so it is.
Yeah, no different. And you speak fluent Irish?
Yeah, fluent Irish.
Okay.
Passable French. For French groups, I would be able to probably give the tour in French. But Italian, I've only a few words. But
don't worry, you're doing better than most of us there. So I really like your goats, and you alluded earlier to me that you did have a favourite one.
We do, yeah.
I want to know, what's her name?
Her name is Catherine. Yeah.
Real Ireland name.
We had Ryan Tuberty out, so we did there not last summer, the summer previous, and she's called Catherine. She has the same birthday as my mother-in-law. So my mother-in-law is Catherine. So not every mother-in-law gets a goat called after them.
Oh, you must be the favourite son-in-law then with that.
I'm the only son-in-law, so she's no choice.
Okay.
But yeah, so Ryan Tuberty's mother is called Catherine as well. So yeah, there you go.
Great. Well, anyone else? Any last question there for Gabriel before we move on? Dara, do you want to mute yourself there?
Yeah. Hi, Gabriel. Can't wait to go out there this summer.
Hi, cool.
Come here. Can I ask you, do you do, particularly with this summer, the way it's working out, you know, it's not going to be the large groups, it's going to be individual families. Can you do like a mixed group? So if we have guests staying in the harbour, guests staying in Glenlow or the Galmont,
Yeah,
can they combine in one tour?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, well, it worked well last year with the bigger bus, because I got the bigger bus for the groups, because the Abbey groups a lot of them were 40 plus, but you can put 12 people or 14 people into the big bus, and you don't have plenty of room. You know, there's a lot of spare seats. But yeah, that's not a problem. And like that, if we had a tour booked on a given day like that you had a mixed group, we could add a couple from the hotel or one, you know, local B&B or something like that. They could join in as well. You know, yeah, that would be the option.
Good stuff. Can't wait to go out there anyway.
Cool, Dara.
Right, see you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Gabriel. So we'll have Gabriel's presentation and this recording up on our website. Sorry, did someone else have a question? Did I see a hand up? No? Okay. So thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we're going to have Park.
Thanks, guys.
From Connemara Pub Tourist Park, so you can share your screen with us there when you're ready.
Yeah, if just to allow the screen share, Rose.
Yeah, it should be there.
Yeah.
Try now. Yeah.
So here we go. So hello everyone. Agus fáilte go Connemara. Thanks, Gabriel, for the first presentation. So you're all welcome. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Pádraig Aran, and I have two brands, I suppose, Connemara Pub Tours and the very, very recently launched Secret Connemara. So I'm a native of Connemara myself, from a place called Kylemore in Canthair na Nullan, the islands area, the archipelago of Connemara. And I've lived there most of my life, other than a couple of years working in Germany and also in Cork. So I'm a native Irish speaker like Gabriel, and I've spent most of my life in Connemara, living in Connemara. So I guess my journey into tourism is quite recent. I started about 5 years ago in 2016. But I suppose if I go back long enough, and as Gabriel mentioned with Inishmore, when I was in college in Galway, I was lucky enough to get one of the seasonal positions with Falls Ireland, working in their tourist office. And because I was a fluent Irish speaker, I was sent off to Inishmore. So where better to go as a 19-year-old than spend a summer on the Aran Islands? And it's one of the summers that I always look back with great fondness. You know, and it was my first, I suppose, step into tourism. So I'll just move on, and here's a map of Connemara for those of you that wouldn't be familiar with it. If you look towards the bottom right there, you'll see Galway City, and basically there's two roads out of Connemara. You have the N59, which brings you right up to Gerard and up to where I'm pointing here to Kylemore Abbey, which Jessica will be telling you more about after this presentation. And you have Ashford Castle up here to the right. You have Ballinahinch a little bit further down. And then the other road out of Galway is the coastal road, which brings you through Salthill, Barnes, Spittle, onto Carrow and into Canthair na Nullan. This is where I'm from myself, this corner of southwest Connemara. And that continues on to the very end here, where you have a number of new visitor experiences like the Seaweed Centre in Lettermullen. And then, of course, you have the Link Road that brings you right up to the N59. So it's all quite a, you know, it's a very manageable area that you can cover a lot in a day or two. And then, of course, the three Aran Islands here. Gabriel introduced you to Inishmore. We have Inishmaan and we have Inisheer, and I do experiences to all of those islands. Access is from Rossaville here by ferry, and also the airport here in Connemara. So moving on. So in 2016, I established Connemara Pub Tours. I suppose at the time I didn't really know where I was going with it. I printed a few brochures and leaflets and dropped them into hotels. And about a couple of days later, I got my first customers from Glenlow Abbey. 5 couples from the States that were driving around Ireland. They had a couple of nights in Galway. They wanted to take a break from, I suppose, getting lost on the roads of Ireland, and picked up a brochure and said, let's do this. So from that, it kind of continued on. I started to make contacts. It got very popular with hens and stags, because Galway is a major destination for them at weekends. And through word of mouth and through working with various agents, particularly in that industry, it got very popular also for birthday celebrations, sports and social clubs, and other kind of family related celebrations. And generally what we would do, they'd be private tours, so they were kind of non-scheduled as such. We would pick up from Galway, we'd do a loop, Connemara, going out the N59 and back in the Coast Road. They'd stop at 4 pubs and they'd get drink vouchers for each pub. The tour would take about 5 to 6 hours. Then later on in about 2017, late 2017-18, I started from Westport, and we did the North Connemara loop, which would bring you to Leenane, to Mam Valley, up to Finney, Tourmakeedy, and back into to Westport again. I suppose I started attending then the Falls Ireland, like the Mehels, the I2A workshops, etc. And I started making contacts with some of the DMCs and agents. And I saw that there was an opportunity there to do a more private experience of Connemara and the Aran Islands. So people that would be coming from couples to kind of multi-generational families, etc., that they would be brought, that everything would be laid out for them. We would meet them either at their hotel or perhaps at the airport if they had a chauffeur drive, and bring them on the day, fly across from the airport to Inisheer or Inishmore. They would do, for example, they would visit the Aran tea house there for teas, coffees, freshly baked scones, etc. We then go to the Arts Centre on Inisheer. They'd learn how to make St. Bridget's Cross. You'll see a couple of images later. And there was an opportunity, I suppose, to start that. And it was as a result of that that I decided last year during lockdown that I'd establish a new brand, and I decided to call that Secret Connemara. But just before we leave Connemara pub tours, this is just a kind of a cross-section of some of the people we've had. I remember this group in particular, retired ladies from Aran, and there was a couple from Canada that wanted to join them, and you see them in the background. And that was something that got very popular. A lot of the North American people that might be coming in as couples or small groups, that they wanted to join an Irish group because they really wanted to have the crack with kind of Irish people and see what it was about and to mix with them. So I tended to get a lot of that. Again, up here to the top right, I remember there were a group from Wicklow and a group from California, and they mixed really well. And then of course you have people for the traditional hens and stags that go all out and decide to theme their parties. So there was something really in it for everyone. And that was very much revolved around Connemara and the Aran Islands. So moving on to Secret Connemara. This, as I said, is very, very recently launched. The website is only live for about 3 weeks. And my concentration here is very much on day and multi-day guided experience. So very personal experiences of Connemara and the Aran Islands. And the aim really is connecting visitors and clients with local people. So whether they're food producers, artists, musicians, craftspeople, local characters that you might meet in the pubs, etc. It's very much about that introduction, because sometimes people maybe lose the opportunity or don't avail of the opportunity to meet kind of, you know, the normal Irish people, the normal Connemara people, the normal Galway City people, Aran Islanders, etc. And this is my goal and aim, and I've been doing it for the last number of years, and I see that there is a massive appetite for it. I mentioned the Irish language earlier, heritage and culture. It's very important, and in the website you'll see in a few minutes I've introduced the Irish language in a fun way, that people realise that it's a living language and that you can experience it when you come to Connemara and to the Aran Islands. Private local family hosting and hospitality. I did this with a number of smaller groups, couples and families, and again the opportunity to meet a local Connemara family, have some freshly caught seaweed cooked around the kitchen table, have the chats, the banter, etc. It's something that people really love and appreciate, and something that I'll be developing as part of this. But very much so that they're tailor-made and bespoke itineraries. And importantly, and particularly this year as we go into kind of a late autumn and winter season, I operate throughout the year. I remember 2019, before the lockdown, I had two families from the States on Inisheer in December, and then I had my first US family in February on Inisheer as well. So winter tourism is great because they more or less have the place to themselves, and they appreciate maybe the calmness and the tranquility of the area as well. So Connemara itself, I have a couple of experiences around Connemara, but again, as I said, this is all very much tailor-made. So by working with you guys, the agents, the DMCs, if you have a family or a group that are interested in culture, then I can tailor make it for that. If they're interested maybe in gastronomy or cooking, like a couple of families that I had, and they wanted to do a cookery lesson. So Alyssa from Tachantay, who's a native of Wisconsin and married on the Aran Islands, she taught them how to make scones. So little things like that. So depending on their interests. And as I said, I have an experience on the archipelago, and I'll show you a little bit about that on the website in a minute. And then the Aran Islands, again, there's a shot of Inisheer. I have an experience on Inisheer and on Inishmore, and I'm looking at developing something on Inishmore as well, which would be the less frequently visited of the three Aran Islands. But again, as Gabriel mentioned, you know, Gabriel has a wonderful product there, as does his in-laws, Dave and Jenny, who I work very closely with in Connemara, and the Hernan brothers that are running the Aran off-road experience. So there's a lot of products that I can work with and that we can tailor a package around. So yeah, culture and craft, as you'll see, the bottom right here, you have Martin on Inisheer, showing a family from I think they were from Mexico, how to do St. Bridget's Cross. And that's a little momentum that they have gone back, something that they handcrafted themselves on the island and that they have as a momentum of their trip to Ireland. You have the Galway hookers, of course, and there's a couple of people looking into developing these, because this is an important part. The problem with the sailing experience is the whole insurance area, but that's been looked at now, so as that we can maybe enable people to experience this wonderful opportunity to sail on a 200-year-old boat. Locally sourced food, it's very important. The first image here on the left is a private island off the archipelago that I have access to. You can drive onto it, and this was a fam trip that we did last September for one of the DMCs for their agents in the States, and we just had this picnic on this deserted island. This fish was caught locally, and it was served up. In this most beautiful of settings. So you can see the lobster, the crab, the mussels, the scallops, mackerel, oyster, all depending on the season. Of course, you have the Connemara mountain lamb for North Connemara. You have your homemade breads, you have your poutine mickle, you have your spirits, etc. And there's an abundance of local food here, and that's what we try and promote as much as possible to visitors here. Music and tradition. This is very much part of the DNA in Connemara and the Aran Islands. Here you have Conor Connolly, who is the Irish Young Traditional Musician of the Year. Conor lives in Galway. I also work with Liam, who is the 2017 Young Musician. Now, I guess it was from demand that came from one particular DMC, where they had clients arriving into Dublin or to Shannon early in the morning. They might be staying in one of the city hotels and they didn't have any itinerary planned. So what I created for them was a private pub tour of Galway City. So we'd go to 3 venues like the Blackgate Cultural Club, like Nyachtons there for some local food, and then we'd end up in the Crane, and I'd bring Conor, Liam, Saoirse, Ronan, who are sean-nós dancers and singers, and we'd have a private music session for ourselves in the corner. But it was very much so about anybody else that wanted to partake were more than welcome. But sometimes it wasn't even about the music. It's very much about hearing the story behind the instrument, or behind the song, or behind the sean-nós dancing. And all of these musicians love to share that experience with the clients and share their stories and what motivated them to take up music or, you know, learn sean-nós dancing and keep that generation of music and talent through from years on. So I just wanted to take this opportunity as well. I'm going to switch back to Connemara pub tours for a second. This is just a gift box that I've developed, and I hope to have it available in the next 2 weeks or so. And again, it's very much about promoting the local produce. So in the box, you're going to have Jenny and Dave's dulse sleeves from Inishmore, which, believe it or not, was the traditional snack that would accompany whiskey in years gone by. So it's a salted seaweed, dried seaweed, and goes very well with the Connemara peat whiskey. We have the Puchin Mickle and gin that's distilled in Salt Hill, but, you know, hopefully will be in Connemara soon. We have the fudge from the Aran Islands and the Turkish Delight, which goes well with the gin, and my own, especially made for, not by me, but made for Connemara pub tours chocolate bar, which again accompanies all those products. So I suppose at this stage I just want to say Guramagi, but I am going to share just a little snippet of the new website for you now in a second. And as I said, the COVID safety charter, we've participated in that, and everything will be going according to the standards as laid out by Fáilte Ireland and the COVID safety charter. So what I'll do is I will do a new share, just a second, of the website here, and hopefully you'll just get a feel for it. So it's very much about the bespoke tours and itineraries crafted for you. We have the Connemara experience here. You know, again, as I said, I mentioned earlier, I've brought in the sayings, the Irish language sayings, Níl Sinson Mar the Hinson Féin. This is the sample itinerary of the archipelago that I showed you earlier, and what you can do, everything from seaweed baths to seaweed foraging to learning actually a very interesting product that Margaret Shepherd Lee from Connemara Organic Seaweed has developed, and it's make your own cosmetics. So she will do a workshop with the clients on how to make their own cosmetics from seaweed. And again, they'll bring their face masks and all the various creams back with them, you know, when they return home. So that's an example of that. And then I'll just show you the Aran Islands. And we have Inisheer again. And description of the Aran Islands. And here is a sample itinerary, one for Inisheer, where you learn the craft again, and one for Inishmore. So that's all kind of detailed here, but as I said, it's very much bespoke depending on what your needs. And I'll just show you briefly the food offering. Of course, you know, you have the abundance of oysters. That's a drink becomes before a story, as I'm sure we can all relate to. And you know, the seaweed harvesters, the sheep farmers, the oysters, etc. And again, the culture, just the sean-nós music and singing. Here's a snippet. It's a fan trip we did during the summer last year. And you see Saoirse and Ronan dancing on the granite stone in the middle of Connemara, just to give you a feel of kind of what we can create for the visitors. And again, I've introduced to the Irish language in a fun way here with phonetics and the simple terms that they can teach on their holiday, even when they leave the Gaeltacht area. And you have the culture here, the Aran sweaters, Connemara carpets made back in Moyard, the boat making, you know, there's several people that are still making Galway hookers, building Galway hookers. We can connect the visitor with them, the stone craft, the basket making, etc. So that gives you a snippet, guys, of what we're up to. So I'd welcome any questions that you have, or any comments.
Thanks so much, Pádraig. There's so much in that, so much. Congratulations on Secret Connemara. The website looks fantastic. So much information, so much to offer. Like, it really covers everything: the craft, the heritage, the food. The picnics look amazing, how they're prepared and presented there. Yeah, let's have a look here at some questions. So Armando wants to know group size for some of these experienced, Pádraig. What kind of size would you be looking at?
For the kind of private personal experiences, I would go from 2 to about 20 or so. Some of the multi-generational families, you know, you might get groups of 14, 16, 18. Now, having said that, I work with some of the DMCs that would have larger numbers. So what we'll do is we'll tailor the experience slightly, maybe break the groups in, for example, in the Aran Islands, that some of them would maybe go on a walk while others would go on a bike tour, and we would have somebody with each of those, but then we would have a common kind of dining experience. And the same with Connemara. For the larger groups, we can do kind of a cultural pub tour, we can do some sort of more immersive experience like that. But generally, for the kind of private guided tours that I outlined here, it's kind of 2 to 20, but I can cater for the larger groups, but just to alter the experience slightly. Lots
of great feedback here, Park, on your presentation and Connemara, Secret Connemara. The visiting into the native Connemara family homes is fantastic. So again, number wise, I suppose, like you just suggested, you could take that in, but maybe some of the group might be doing something else at that time. Given the location of the families that you work with, is that something that would be possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with a couple of hosts on that, and I suppose the numbers would have been small, you know, 4 or 6 people. As such, it would be more manageable. But you know, we can do similar experiences, you know, maybe in other areas, like, for example, the archipelago that I mentioned. There's a new seaweed museum there. I think Pádraig might be on this call, and we've hosted you know, private dining experiences there for 20 people. So it can be catered for the larger groups as well.
Great. And I love the making of the cosmetics, you know, from the seaweed products. So simple, really, and just kind of facilitating that. It's really something that a learning people can take away, because real strong theme at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wellness.
Absolutely. Margaret Shepherd Lee there, she's a native of the Shetland Islands, but she's married to a Connemara man, and they set up that business a number of years ago. So yeah, her beauty range has expanded, as it has her food range, and she has done that in the past, where, you know, we've kind of created small groups of workshops, and it's a perfect experience for a wet day, because, you know, unfortunately we get a lot of them in Connemara too. So it's a great plan B if you couldn't go seaweed foraging, if you couldn't go sea kayaking, or, you know, sailing on a Galway hooker. So there's opportunities there for tailor making those.
Great. Just a question here from Dara. How many days would it take to get the full Secret Connemara experience?
I've had a couple of groups where we spent 3 days where we covered kind of North Connemara, we covered South Connemara, the Gaeltacht areas, and then we covered the Aran Islands. So I would say 2 to 3 days.
I was going to say a few weeks, Pádraig, there. So, I mean, it's vast area. So much to experience. You're selling yourself short. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Listen, thank you so much. Excellent presentation. It's so much to take in. So I obviously, again, as mentioned earlier, all the presentations will be up online, and so you can download Pádraig's from there. So next, thank you, Pádraig. Next, we're going to welcome Jessica from Kylemore Abbey. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, how are you? I'll just share my screen with you here.
Good to have you here.
Yeah. So just while this is setting up, my name is Jessica Ridge. I'm the marketing manager here in Kylemore Abbey. So I see some faces I recognize here and some new ones. So it's lovely to see you all, and thank you to Rose and the Convention Bureau for putting this on. It's a great opportunity to show what we're doing here in Kylemore and what's new. So hopefully some of you will see things that maybe you've been here before to Kylemore, but you'll see something new in this, because we're trying to expand and develop all of the time. So Kylemore Abbey is a Benedictine monastery and a visitor attraction here in the west of Ireland, in Connemara on the Wild Atlantic Way. As a visitor attraction, we've been in operation since around the late 80s, and we've been growing and expanding the offering year on year. The 1,000 acre estate takes in the Abbey, which many of you would recognise as the castle. It takes in the Victorian wall gardens, the neo-Gothic church. We have walks and trails. We have new farm friends on site, and we have 2 food outlets and 1 retail outlet. So as I said, the whole estate is kind of growing and what we offer on it. So hopefully you'll see something new here today. In this slideshow, there's awful lot of history and a lot of detail, which I wanted to put in there for you so you can have a look back on it again. But I'll just kind of skim through it today and give you kind of the highlights for yourselves. So safety first. In a post-COVID world, we need to talk about this. So we're part of the Fáilte Ireland Safety Charter, and we'll be adhering to all of the guidelines as is necessary at any given time. Today I'll tell you about some talks, music recitals and that, which we may not be able to offer in full this year dependent on restrictions, but where we can't offer them, we have workarounds in place as much as possible. So just a bit of the history. The castle and the estate was built in 1867 by a man named Mitchell Henry. So he was a Mancunian surgeon, and he inherited a large fortune with which he built this estate for his wife. And everything you see here today would have been pretty much what they put in place, the castle, the gardens. A lot of it had gone to ruin over the years, and so we're trying to restore it bit by bit. But the structure as is here today is what they built in that time. So after a couple of tragedies on this estate, his wife dying and then one of their daughters dying, Mitchell sold up, and he sold to the Duke and Duchess of Manchester. And they were a very glamorous couple. So they bought it in 1903 and they were here for around 10 years. They were socialites, known to be in all the papers and talked about. She was a very wealthy American heiress. So they were very, very glamorous. But he was a bit of a gambler and unfortunately lost all of their money. And after just 10 short years here, they had to sell the estate. They went bankrupt. But at that time, over in Europe, World War I was raging on. And I suppose in Ypres in Belgium, the Irish Dames of Ypres, who were a Benedictine order of nuns, had their monastery bombed. And so they fled Ypres as refugees. They came through the UK and into Ireland. And on the 4th of December 1920, they arrived in Kylemore. They went on to purchase the estate, and it's been their home for the past 101 years. So 2020 was supposed to be a very big year here in Kylemore. We had so many celebrations planned. Unfortunately, that couldn't happen, but we'll try to carry forward those celebrations as much as we can. So the nuns have done great work here over the past 101 years. A lot of people would recognize the Abbey as a school, so education is a big part of their ethos, as is Ora et Labora, or prayer and work. And so they've worked the estate as a school and as a social enterprise for the local area, as a visitor attraction for the past 30 years. And so they're continuously growing and expanding on the estate. They also hand make chocolate and soap here on site, and that's something that you can see into, and I'll tell you a bit about a tour that involves that later. So when you arrive here on site, and many people will be familiar with Kylemore Abbey, but if you haven't been here in the last year to 2 years, you mightn't have seen the new visitor experience within that. So with Fáilte Ireland, a new visitor experience from generation to generation was put in. And so it's a mixture of the multimedia kind of interactive experience with restored period rooms. So we were very fortunate to be part of the Great Irish Interiors television programme, which showed how people who were actually working on site, our guides, put a huge amount of work into sourcing all of the proper materials, having dresses remade, having the old fireplaces restored and everything, so that the castle could be brought back to its Victorian splendour. So you can, it's a self-guided tour through the ground floor of the Abbey to take in the different parts of the Abbey and its story. Just a short distance from that is the neo-Gothic church. The neo-Gothic church is a really, really beautiful space to stop and sit and let the world go by. It's a very soft space. It was built for Margaret Henry when she passed away. Mitchell built it in her memory, and so it all reflects her. So it's very beautiful, effeminate, soft area, and it's a beautiful place just to go in and sit and take stock. And during the summer, we would have music recitals in there almost daily. So it would be mainly soft harp music, soft traditional music, and choirs from all over the world contact us and want to come here if they're touring Europe or just touring Ireland and want to sing there. So if you have any choir groups that you work with, they're more than welcome to come and sing in the Gothic church. The acoustics are fantastic. And just a short distance from that, tucked away in the forest, is a mausoleum, and that's where Mitchell and Margaret are buried. So Mitchell was brought back to be buried with Margaret there. Just a mile from the Abbey on the other side and serviced by a shuttle bus is the Victorian Wall Garden. So that's 6.5 acres of ordered splendour in the heart of Connemara. So it's half model flower garden and half model vegetable garden. So the veg that grows there, we use some of it that we can in the restaurant, but obviously it wouldn't produce enough for what we need. There's also a number of buildings in there that you can visit. So there's 2 restored glass houses, a vinery, the head gardener's house and bothy. And outside of there, we have our farmyard friends. So we have our Connemara ponies. The one on the right, Snowy, has gotten a lot of press recently. She'll be on her way up to Michael D. Higgins in the Oris in a few weeks with her new foal. And Ken is on the left there. He's a Kuna pig. He's one of 2, Ken and Gloria, and they're just fun to be around. And during the summer, we'll be doing daily feedings of them. So they'll come up to the fence and there'll be someone there to tell you a small bit about them. We also knew for 2021 and 22, we have woodland trails and tails. So anyone who's come to Kylemore will know it's a great place to get out, to forest bathe if that's what you're into, and to see nature. And this year we've added to that. So a lot of old trails that were there in Victorian times, we've just reopened up. We've cut away a lot of the rhododendron and the invasive species. So you can get down and you can see the Davros River. You can see right across the 12 Bends up to the Diamond Hill. And you can kind of almost get lost. I mean, it's all path, but you feel like you're lost in nature back there. It's absolutely beautiful. So that'll be just opening up this year when we open up. And of course, the flavours and gifts from Kylemore. So as I mentioned, the Benedictine nuns make chocolate here on site. They also make soap, and we sell that in our shop. The pottery as well is also made on site by a local lady. It's been made here since the 70s. It was one of the first enterprises that the nuns took on here. We also have a cafe, and it seats 80 people indoors, and we hope to have around another 80 to 100 outdoor seating this summer. And we have a garden tea house. So that's back near the Victorian Wall Gardens, and it's a beautiful glass building, so you can look out on the Abbey or on the mountains rather, and the pony paddock as you have your cup of tea. So just a visit to Kylemore takes in that visitor experience with the multimedia displays. We have daily history talks happening in the Abbey, and they'll become more frequent as the year goes on, and we can, social distancing hopefully won't be as big a deal. There'll also be specialty talks that will happen and that you can book, or they'll be happening on a regular basis anyways. The music recitals, they're very much just a walk-in as they're happening, but if you have a group coming, the Gothic church can seat up to 80 people, so it's good for large groups or small groups. As I said, we have our food and our retail offering. The Benedictine nuns welcome people to join them for their daily mass. You can also join them online on they have a webcam of their daily mass every day, and we have the feeding time with ponies and pigs. Probably of more significance to yourselves is what we do for groups. So we do private tours for groups and families. So we usually have up to around 25 people per guide, and we can tailor it to what you want to take in. So the Abbey is usually a kind of a standard for everyone, but if you want to take in the gardens or you want to take in the Gothic church, it might take different amount of time depending on what it is you need. Then we do private guided hikes. They'll be coming back on board from 2022. So we used to have them here, and we hope that they'll be coming back. And that will take you up Duhru Mountain, which is the mountain behind the Abbey. And so we do short and we do long hikes. And like that, when you discuss it with us, we're happy to lengthen the hikes, discuss the amount of people, etc. A new experience that we've coming on for 2022, and which is already proving to be quite popular, is an evening in Kylemore luxury experience. So this is exclusive access, private after hours. You'll get a private guided tour of the Abbey and the Gothic church. You will get a light supper in the Abbey itself, and you'll get a private music recital in the Gothic church. So this is very much, again, it'll be bespoke, what you want, kind of what it'll be local foods, kind of Connemara lamb, oysters, mussels, that type of thing. Or if you have a certain preference, we're happy to work with groups. At the moment, because it's just new, we're just starting out, we're looking at smaller groups, so kind of from 2 to 10 people. We also have a local photographer who can come in if it's something special, if it's an anniversary or an engagement. A lot of people, because of the romance here, like to come here to get engaged. So we can organize flowers and that from the gardens as well for the experience, if that's what you want. Our head gardener does garden tours. Again, they're private garden tours. They're brilliant for special interest groups. If you have any of those who would like to join us, and pre-booking again is essential for all of these kind of private tours. And we also hope to bring back our behind the scenes tours. So it was very popular in the last couple of years. We've had to stop it because of COVID, but we're hoping to be able to get it back next year. It's for smaller groups, around up to 15, because the areas are quite tight. And you're getting to see the nuns making the chocolate and the soap, and to see Mary in the pottery making the fuchsia pottery. Again, it'll be pre-booked. We did it originally that it was just kind of a walk-in thing, but they became very popular. So we're going to have to do them pre-booked from now on, which is a good complaint, I suppose. So they're what we kind of recommend for groups. And then our top tips, there's a lot here, but I'll just say a couple of the top ones. We always advise people to arrive early and make the most of their day, and to allow themselves plenty of time. So we are around an hour and a half from Galway City. If you look it up, it'll probably say a little less, but I challenge any group to come out the Abbey Valley and not stop to take photos, because it is incredibly beautiful no matter what the weather. So allow yourself plenty of time to get here, and then plenty of time on the estate. We say around 3 hours, and that would be to take in the Abbey and one other part. So if you want to take in the extended walks, or if you want to do the Gothic and the garden, you'd need to leave yourself a little more time than that. And as always, get in touch. We love to hear from you all. We love to hear what you're doing with your groups and what you're looking for from us. And we'll work with you as much as we possibly can. So thank you very much for listening. Any questions, I would more than welcome now at this stage. And like that, my details are there, and the details of the booking office if you have any questions, if you come to this later or you think of it after. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jessica. Excellent presentation. There's so much in Kylemore. Wow, it's an amazing place. I know some of you have been there already, but in the last couple of years, it's really come on with the investment and the experience that's there. And you've added so many things, so many unique things. I'm loving this supper, after hours supper. Yeah. Could have it by candlelight. Exactly. And because it will be after hours, we're kind of envisaging that in the later part of the years it'll be dark. So we'll give you a lantern to walk back the avenue by the light of the lantern. So it should be beautiful and romantic. Yeah, just gorgeous. And so many unique facilities there with the mini cathedral and the wall garden that you can just utilize for your group after hours once you're ready to do that. Yeah, I would definitely recommend you looking up online Kylemore Abbey just to even read the history. It's amazing the vision that Henry Mitchell had 100 years ago was to bring, you know, the employment and business into Connemara, and look at it now, like a real legacy. Yeah. Just amazing. And it's such a beautiful place to be in, so relaxing, so therapeutic. There, just the lake and the mountains. It's a stunning place. Anyone got any questions there for Jessica? You can just unmute yourself or pop it in the box there. Armando's saying it's wonderful to see Kylemore is offering so much more than we are used to. Very well done. It's a beautiful presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Kathleen, hello.
Hi, how are you doing? Great presentation. It's really exciting to see what has happened to Kylemore years ago. Years ago, I used to be at workshops with Sister Magdalena in the day, and the vision that Sister Magdalena had and how she saw the renovation of the garden, the Gothic church, it was just beyond belief. And that she could fundraise for it all and get it. It's just such a credit. We're absolutely lucky to have such an amazing place as Kylemore Abbey.
Thank you, Kathleen. And it's actually important to point out, Sister Magdalena is still the brains behind the operation. She's still here very much directing what's happening. So I'll tell her that you said that. She'd be delighted.
Yeah, she was. I tell you, there's very few CEOs or entrepreneurs in this country that would match her. Amazing.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
And the Abbey was a boarding school, actually, up till not so long ago, really. Was it the 90s that it stopped boarding, Jessica, was it?
It stopped, the boarding stopped around 2008.
Was it?
The school closed in 2010, so I'm actually a past pupil myself. I went to school here and so did my mother. And it's one of the things you'll see when you're on the estate here. A lot of the people who work here were either past pupils or have generations of their family working here. So up to like my great-grandfather would have been a gillie here for the Duke back in the early 1900s. And you'll see that throughout the estate. So many people here have such rich connections to its history as well as its present. So if you come across any staff, ask them a heap of questions, they'll be happy to answer it, whether it's about Kylemore, its history, or the location.
And you had quite a few famous boarders that used to come internationally as well.
We did. So it was an international boarding school that came from all over the world. Angelica Houston apparently went to school here. We don't know that for certain, but we've heard that. And we had 2 princesses from India, and they went to school here, and they would have been the nieces of the Raj who had Ballynahinch Castle. And then some of their descendants came here years later. So we only had contact from one of them a few days ago who saw the picture of the princess and was like, oh, that was my great-great-grandaunt. So it's great to have that connection that goes through generations as well. And that's very much what the new interpretation shows people. It's the generations, where it came from, where it went, and what ties it all together.
Amazing history. And as you said, just to allow the time to drive out from the city, it's definitely worth it. The drive alone is just stunning. You won't miss it. Yeah, an hour and a half, definitely, with the roads being quite windy and narrow, and yeah, sheep passing, but lots of stops for picture opportunities as well. So just make that as part of your program. If you are programming Kylemore, is the drive out and even have, you know, a group shot or a group picture along the way to break up the journey, because the roads are quite windy, but they're stunningly beautiful. Dara wants to know, can you actually stay overnight in Kylemore?
No, not in the Abbey itself. Now, the Notre Dame University from Indiana, they have a section here where they do classes for their international students. They have some accommodation here. They don't usually use it privately, although that's something that they're looking at doing. So while it's not here right now, I would say keep in touch with them and see what you can do with them. They're very open to different options, because they wouldn't have students here all year round. They just kind of come and go. So so they have a number of options open there. So if anyone wants a contact, I can put you in touch as well with Notre Dame University there.
Thanks, Jessica. Anyone else got any questions? We're just about out of time. Brendan, yeah, just to let you know, yeah, the recordings will be posted on